Drum and bass is a genre and branch of electronic music which emerged from rave and old-school jungle scenes in England during the early 1990s. The style is often characterized by fast breakbeats with heavy bass and sub-bass lines, sampled sources, and synthesizers. The popularity of drum and bass at its commercial peak ran parallel to several other homegrown dance styles in the UK, including big beat and house. Drum and bass incorporates a number of scenes and styles. A major influence on jungle and drum and bass was the original Jamaican dub and reggae sound. Another feature of the style is the complex syncopation of the drum track's breakbeat. Drum and bass subgenres include breakcore, ragga jungle, hardstep, darkstep, techstep, neurofunk, ambient drum and bass, liquid funk, deep drum funk, funkstep, samba-D, NB noise, and drill N bass. From its roots in the UK, the style has established itself around the world. Drum and bass has influenced many other genres like hip-hop, big beat, dubstep, house music, trip-hop, ambient music, techno, rock and pop. Drum and bass is dominated by a small group of record labels. The major international music labels have shown very little interest in the drum and bass scene. Drum and bass remains most popular in the UK, but has developed scenes all around the world, in countries such as the Netherlands, Belgium, New Zealand, Canada, Austria, and Australia. History. See also Old School Jungle. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, a growing nightclub and overnight outdoor event culture gave birth to a new electronic music style called rave music, which, much like hip-hop, combined sampled syncopated beats of breakbeats, other samples from a wide range of different musical genres, and, occasionally, samples of music, dialogue and effects from films and television programs. But rave music tended to feature stronger bass sounds and a faster tempo beats per minute than that of early house music. This subgenre was known as hardcore rave, but from as early as 1991, some musical tracks made up of these high-tempo breakbeats, with heavy bass lines and samples of older Jamaican music, were referred to as jungle techno, a genre influenced by Jack Smooth and Basement Records, and later just jungle, which became recognized as a separate musical genre popular at raves and on pirate radio in Britain. It is important to note when discussing the history of drum and bass that prior to jungle, rave music was getting faster and more experimental. Professional DJ and amp producer CK states, "There was a progression as far as the speed of music is concerned. Anyone buying vinyl every week from 1989 to 1992 noticed this. By 1994 jungle had begun to gain mainstream popularity, and fans of the music became a more recognizable part of youth subculture. The genre further developed, incorporating and fusing elements from a wide range of existing musical genres, including the ragamuffin sound, dancehall, MC chants, dub basslines, and increasingly complex, heavily edited breakbeat percussion. Despite the affiliation with the ecstasy-fueled rave scene, jungle also inherited some associations with violence and criminal activity, both from the gang culture that had affected the UK's hip-hop scene and as a consequence of jungle's often aggressive and menacing sound and themes of violence. However, this developed in tandem with the often positive reputation of the music as part of the wider rave scene and dancehall-based Jamaican music culture, prevalent in London. By 1995, whether as a reaction to or independently of this cultural schism, some jungle producers began to move away from the ragga-influenced style and create what would become collectively labeled, for convenience, as drum and and bass. As the genre became generally more polished and sophisticated technically, it began to expand its reach from pirate radio to commercial stations and gain widespread acceptance. It also began to split into recognizable subgenres such as jump up and hardstep. As a lighter and often jazz-influenced style of drum and bass gained mainstream appeal, additional subgenres emerged, including techstep, which drew greater influence from techno music and the soundscapes of science fiction and anime films. The popularity of drum and bass at its commercial peak ran parallel to several other homegrown dance styles in the UK, including big beat and house, but towards the turn of the millennium its popularity was deemed to have dwindled as the UK garage style known as speed garage yielded several hit singles. Speed garage shared high tempos and heavy bass lines with drum and bass, but otherwise followed the established conventions of house music, with this and its freshness giving it an advantage commercially. London DJ producer C.K. says, "It is often forgotten by my students that a type of music called garage house existed in the late 1980s alongside hip house, acid house and other forms of house music." Quote, he continues, "This new garage of the mid-90s was not a form of house or a progression of garage house. The beats and tempo that define house are entirely different. This did cause further confusion in the presence of new house music of the mid-1990s being played alongside what was now being called garage. Despite this, the emergence of further subgenres and related styles such as liquid funk brought a wave of new artists incorporating new ideas and techniques, supporting continual evolution of the genre. To this day, drum and bass makes frequent appearances in mainstream media and popular culture, including in television, as well as being a major reference point for subsequent genres such as grime and dubstep and successful artists including Jason Amp, Status and Australia's Pendulum. Currently the world of drum and bass is dominated by one key player in the industry known as TDB. He is the man behind popular ventures such as the DNBV and currently has over 1 million followers on his Twitter feed. Very few people even know about his contribution to drum and bass and the many things he has done in the background of the scene for many years. But yet despite this he continues to produce many of the tracks you hear today, and is set to release his first solo album under his own name later in 2016. Musical features. Drum and bass incorporates a number of scenes and styles, from the highly electronic, industrial sounds of techstep through to the use of conventional, acoustic instrumentation that characterize the more jazz-influenced end of the spectrum. The sounds of drum and bass are extremely varied due to the range of influences behind the music. Drum and bass could at one time be defined as a strictly electronic musical genre, with the only live element being the DJ's selection and mixing of records during a set. Live drum and bass using electronic and acoustic instruments played by musicians on stage emerged over the ensuing years of the genre's development. Influences. The Amen break was the main starting influence for drum and bass. Jungle threw in more whistles and bells and MCs. Jungle has a distinct African flow which is dirty. Drum and bass for mainstream UK was clean and formal, a very obvious and strong influence on jungle and drum and bass, thanks to the British African Caribbean sound system scene, is the original Jamaican dub and reggae sound, with pioneers like King Tubby, Peter Tosh, Sly and Amp, Robbie, Bill Laswell, Lee Perry, Mad Professor, Roots Radix, Bob Marley and Buju Banton heavily influencing the music. This influence has lessened with time but is still evident with many tracks containing ragga vocals. As a musical style built around funk-syncopated rock and roll breaks, James Brown, Al Green, Marvin Gaye, Ella Fitzgerald, Gladys Knight Namp, The Pips, Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, The Supremes, The Commodores, Jerry Lee Lewis and even Michael Jackson are funky influences on the music. Jazz pioneer Miles Davis has been named as a possible influence. Blues artists like Lead Belly, Robert Johnson, Charlie Patton, Muddy Waters and B.B. King have also been cited by producers as inspirations. Even modern avant-garde composers such as Henryk Górecki have received mention. One of the most influential tracks in drum and bass history was Amen Brother by the Winstons, which contains a drum solo that has since become known as the Amen break, which after being extensively used in early hip-hop music, went on to become the basis for the rhythms used in drum and bass. Kevin Saunderson released a series of bass-heavy, minimal techno cuts as Reese, the Reese Project in the late 80s, which were hugely influential in drum and bass terms. One of his more famous bass lines was indeed sampled on Renegade's Terrorist and countless others, since being known simply as the Reese bass line. He followed these up with equally influential tracks in the UK hardcore style as Tronic House in 1991-1992. Another Detroit artist who was important for the scene is Carl Craig. The sampled-up jazz break on Carl Craig's Bug in the Bass Bin was also influential on the newly emerging sound DJs at the Rage Club used to play it pitched up as far as the Technics record decks would go. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, the tradition of breakbeat use in hip-hop production had influenced the sound of breakbeat hardcore, which in turn led to the emergence of jungle, drum and bass, and other genres that shared the same use of broken beats. Drum and bass shares many musical characteristics with hip-hop, though it is nowadays mostly stripped of lyrics. Grandmaster Flash, Roger Troutman, Africa Bambaataa, Run DMC, Mag Dre, Public Enemy, Schoolie D, NWA, Kid Frost, Wu-Tang Clan, Dre, Mos Def, Beastie Boys and The Pharcyde are very often directly sampled, regardless of the general influence. Clearly, drum and bass has been influenced by other music genres, though influences from sources external to the electronic dance music scene perhaps lessened following the shifts from jungle to drum and bass, and through to so-called intelligent drum and bass and techstep. It still remains a fusion music style. Some tracks are illegally remixed and released on white label, often to acclaim. For example, DJ Zink's remix of the Fugees' Ready or Not, also known as Fugees or Not, was eventually released with the Fugees' permission after talk of legal action, though ironically the Fugees' version infringed Enya's copyright to an earlier song. White labels along with dub plates play an important part in drum and bass musical culture. Drum and bass line elements. The genre places great importance on the bass line, a deep sub-bass musical pattern which can be felt physically through powerful sound systems due to the low-range frequencies favored. There has been considerable exploration of different timbres in the bass line region, particularly within techstep. The bass lines most notably originate from sampled sources as synthesizers. Bass lines performed with a bass instrument, whether it is electric, acoustic or double bass, are less common, but examples can be found in the work of bands such as Shapeshifter, Square Pusher, Roni Size and SDS9. Of equal importance is the TR-808 kick drum, an artificially pitched down or elongated bass drum sound sampled from Roland's classic TR-808 drum machine, and a sound which has been subject to an enormous amount of experimentation over the years. The complex syncopation of the drum track's breakbeat is another facet of production on which producers can spend a very large amount of time. The Amen break is generally acknowledged to have been the most used break in drum and bass. The Amen break was synonymous with early drum and bass productions, but other samples have had a significant impact, including the Apache, Funky Drummer, Soul Pride, Scorpio, and Think breaks. Many drum and bass tracks have featured more than one sampled breakbeat in them, and a technique of switching between two breaks after each bar developed. Examples of this can be heard on mid-90s releases such as J Magic's Your Sound. A more recent commonly used break is the Tramin, which combines the Amen break, a James Brown funk breakbeat, and an Alex Reese drum and bass breakbeat. The relatively fast drum beat forms a canvas on which a producer can create tracks to appeal to almost any taste, and often will form only a background to the other elements of the music. Syncopated breakbeats remain the most distinctive element, as without these a high-tempo four-quarters dance track could be classified as techno-agaba. Tempo. Drum and bass is usually between 160–180 BPM, in contrast to other breakbeat-based dance styles such as new school breaks, which maintain a slower pace at around 130–140 BPM. A general upward trend in tempo has been observed during the evolution of drum and bass. The earliest forms of drum and bass clocked in at around 130 BPM in 1990–1991, speeding up to around 155–165 BPM by 1993. Since around 1996, drum and bass tempos have predominantly stayed in the 170 to 180 range. Recently, some producers have started to once again produce tracks with slower tempos, but the mid-170 tempo is still the hallmark of the drum and bass sound. A track combining the same elements as a drum and bass track, but with a slower tempo, might not be drum and bass but a drum and bass influenced breakbeat track. Context. Drum and bass exhibits a full frequency response which can only be appreciated on sound systems which can handle very low frequencies. As befits its name, the bass element of the music is particularly pronounced, with the comparatively sparser arrangements of drum and bass tracks allowing room for bass lines that are deeper than most other forms of dance music. Consequently, drum and bass parties are often advertised as featuring uncommonly loud and bass-heavy sound systems. There are, however, many albums specifically designed for personal listening. The mixed CD is a particularly popular form of release, with a big-name DJ producer mixing live or on a computer a variety of tracks for personal listening. Additionally, there are many albums containing unmixed tracks, suited for home or car listening. Many mixing points begin or end with the drop. The drop is the point in a track where a switch of rhythm or bass line occurs and usually follows a recognizable build section and breakdown. Sometimes the drop is used to switch between tracks, layering components of different tracks, though as the two records may be simply ambient breakdowns at this point, though some DJs prefer to combine breakbeats, a more difficult exercise. Some drops are so popular that the DJ will rewind, or reload, or lift up by spinning the record back and restarting it at the bill. The drop is often a key point from the point of view of the dance floor, since the drum breaks often fade out to leave an ambient intro playing. When the beats recommence, they are often more complex and accompanied by a heavier bass line, encouraging the crowd to dance. Although it has declined in popularity, DJs are often accompanied by one or more MCs, drawing on the genre's roots in hip-hop and reggae. Ragga. MCs do not generally generally receive the same level of recognition as producer DJs, and some events are specifically marketed as being MC-free. There are relatively few well-known drum and bass MCs: Stevie Hyper D, MC GQ, MC Moose, MC Det, MC Fearless, The Ragga Twins, Dynamite MC, MC Fats, MC Conrad, Shabba D, Skiba D, Bassman, MC Stamina, MC Fun, Evil Beat, Trigger, Eskmin, Harry Shotter, Mr. Tronmatic and MC Infinity as examples. Live drum and bass. Many musicians have adapted drum and bass to live performances, which feature instruments such as drums, samplers, synthesizers, turntables, bass and guitars. Samplers have also been used live by assigning samples to a specific drum pad, a key on drum pads or synthesizers. MCs are frequently featured in live performances. List of drum and bass artists who perform using live instruments: Chasen Amp, Status, DJ Fresh, Rudimental, Apollo 440, Modestep, Roni Size, Live Summit, Salmonella Dub, Shapeshifter, Netsky, London Electricity, Wilkinson, Subfocus, Pendulum. Subgenres. Smaller scenes within the drum and bass community have developed, and the scene as a whole has become much more fractured into specific subgenres, including drumstep is a combination of drum and bass, and dubstep where the beat structure is half-time, while the remaining elements still adhere to the usual tempo. Drum and bass. Breakcore is a style of electronic dance music largely influenced by hardcore, jungle, digital hardcore and industrial music that is characterized by its use of heavy kick drums, breaks and a wide palette of sampling sources, played at high tempos. Ragga drum and amp bass was inspired by the original ragga jungle style, with influences from reggae and dancehall music. Notable artists include Shy FX, T-Power, Congo Natty, Potential Bad Boy, Marcus Visionary, Serial Killaz, Ed Solo, Decline, Isaac Meyer, Runtings, CRU, Psycho Freud, Benny Page, and vocalists such as David Boomer, Top Cat, Tenor Fly, and General Levy. Hardstep is a harder style which uses gritty bass lines and heavy yet simple electronic melodies. Notable artists include Dillania, DJ Crust, Mampy Swift, Diesel Boy, Current Value, Machine Code. Darkstep is characterized by fast drums and a general dark mood, drawing influences from dark ambient, industrial and hardcore music. Prominent artists include Technical Itch, Dylan, Cryptic Minds and Amp, Leon Switch, Speaky, Resonant Evil, Infiltrator, SPL, Counter-Strike, Evil Intent, The Panacea, Limewax, and Current Value. Techstep is characterized by sci-fi soundscapes and samples from science fiction culture, pioneered by artists such as Bad Company UK, Ed Rush, Optical, Trace, Fierce and Nico, Conflict, Dom and Amp, Roland, Dillania, Ram Trilogy, Moving Fusion, Decoder and Amp, Substance, Digital and Amp, Spirit, Future Cut, Dylan, Log C in Amp, Inc., Total Science, D.K. Stagger and Amp, Skynet and Keaton, with Usual Suspects, a Universal project, Clued, Concord Dawn, and the label Moving Shadow. Neurofunk and Neuro is the progression from Techstep, incorporating more elements from jazz and funk. Prominent artists include Ed Rush and Amp, Optical, Matrix, Bad Company UK, Cause for Concern, TB, Future Prophecies, Black Sun Empire, DLR, Calyx, Hive, Gridlock, Noisier, Fasten Amp, Misanthrope, Silent Witness and Amp, Break, State of Mind, The Upbeats, Jason Amp, Status, Jade, Mindscape, Spore, PSI Dream, Catacomb, Regular, Jump Up appeared in the mid-1990s, employs heavy and energetic drum and bass, characterized by robotic and heavy bass sounds. It also is generally less serious and contains more humor than other subgenres. Notable artists include DJ Hazard, Generation Dub, Baron, Cabby, Clips, Nightwalker, Collide, Headaches, Taxman, Jaden, Sub-Zero, Original Sin, Annex, Konichi, Decimal Bass, New Elements, Tyke, DJ Zen, Magistrate, Twisted Individual, Distorted Minds, TC, Heist, DJ Pleasure, DJ Hype and his label Playaz Recordings, Ambient Drum and Amp Bass, Atmospheric Drum and Amp Bass, Intelligent Drum and Amp Bass, Jazzy Drum and Bass, or Intelligent Jungle is a smoother style, influenced by ambient music, chill-out, jazz and soul music. It was pioneered by such artists as Timecode, Omni Trio, Foul Play, Seba, Blue Marten, Noki, Hyperon Experience, DJ Pulse, Higher Sense, Deep Blue, Photek, Jack Smooth Blame, LTJ Bookham and his label Good Looking Records, and the label Moving Shadow. Jazz Step. Jazzy Jungle demonstrates heavy influence by jazz. It uses typical jazz scales, rhythms and instrumentation. Notable artists include Roni Size and Amp Represent, Goldie, Morgan Sullivan, Makoto, Pesce, Alex Reese, and DJ Dextrous. Liquid Funk draws heavily on harmonic and melodic grooves, and samples from funk, jazz, soul, R&B, disco, house and breakbeat, while Intelligent Drum and Bass or Atmospheric Drum and Bass creates a calmer yet more synthetic sound. It was pioneered by Calabash, Zero Tolerance and Amp Beta 2, London Electricity, High Contrast, Logistics, New Tone, Danny Bird, Scientific, Netsky, Lensman, Technimatic, Hobbsy and Amp C and Bass, Paul T and Amp Edward Oberon. Hybrid Minds and labels such as Hospital Records, Focus Records and Liquid V. The first liquid-only events were Liquidizer at Bristol Academy. Sambass incorporates elements from samba, bossa nova and other Latin music styles, pioneered by artists such as DJ Marky, XRS, DJ Patif and Brian G's label V Recordings. Drill N bass incorporates double-time drum N bass with undanceable rhythms, low-brow humor, and ambient vibes. The subgenre was developed by Square Pusher and Aphex Twin, whose rapid and irregularly syncopated basslines discourage dancing. Regional scenes. Despite its roots in the UK, which can still be treated as the home of drum and bass, the style has firmly established itself around the world. There are strong scenes in other English-speaking countries, including Australia, Canada, South Africa, the United States and New Zealand. It is popular throughout continental Europe, and in South America. São Paulo is sometimes called the drum and bass Ibiza. Brazilian drum and bass is sometimes referred to as sambass, with its specific style and sound. In Venezuela and Mexico, artists have created their own forms of drum and bass, combining it with experimental musical forms. In Colombia there is a large underground scene. The Reset label and Bogota Project are two collectives that put on DNB events in the city, as well as a twice-yearly event called Radical Styles, that brings together local talent and international big names. Austria has a large emerging DNB scene with many artists such as Mefew, Camo and Crooked, Forward Body and Soul, Pertune, Ill Skills and mainly the Mainframe record label, being all based in or around Vienna. Notable venues and events include Future Beats and Beat It at Flex, held almost every Thursday and Saturday, Vile Contact in the Flux, and the monthly event Mainframe Recordings, held in Arena. Genres influenced by drum and bass, born around the same time as jungle, breakcore and digital hardcore, share many of the elements of drum and bass, and to the uninitiated, tracks from the extreme end of drum and bass may sound identical to breakcore thanks to speed, complexity, impact and maximum sonic density combined with musical experimentation. German drum and bass DJ The Panacea is also one of the leading digital hardcore artists. Raggacore resembles a faster version of the ragga-influenced jungle music of the 1990s, similar to breakcore but with more friendly dancehall beats. Darkcore, a direct influence on drum and bass, was combined with influences of drum and bass itself, leading to the creation of darkstep. There is considerable crossover from the extreme edges of drum and bass, breakcore, darkcore, digital hardcore and raggacore with fluid boundaries. The genre has influenced many other genres like hip-hop, big beat, dubstep, house music, trip-hop, ambient music, techno, rock and pop, with artists such as Bill Laswell, Incubus, Pitch Shift, Linkin Park, The Roots, Talvin Singh, Medieval Pundits, Missy Elliott, The Freestylers, Bowie Electric, Nine Inch Nails, David Bowie and others, quoting drum and bass and using drum and bass techniques and elements. Recently created in the United States is a genre called ghetto tech, which contains synth and bass lines similar to drum and amp bass.